Hello, my name is METİN Arıdaşır. This is 292nd part of explanation of my theory. Cosmological crisis solved by new theory of redshift mechanism of Arıdaşır. Me. Universe space is not expand. All redshift formulas are wrong. Faster than light receding galaxies formulas completely wrong. Cosmologists, you don't have theories to determine the age of observable universe. Because you don't have measurement tools to accommodate on the scale of the universe. Because your current measurement tools are based on wrong definitions and false theories and have techniques that combine inconsistent data, of course you can't calculate the age of the observable universe. You will undoubtedly face the problem of pioneer anomaly, etc. Yes. What does light have to do with all this? For instance, in galactic scale light graphs, light charts, used in physics to understand how fast a galaxy is moving away. But accepted physics theories do not discern that light they use to measure this speed are two radically different types of light. Moreover, they do not realize that each continuous spectrum chart represents a different and specific unchanged frequency and variable initial wavelength of free electron motion forms light. This type chart belongs to free electron motion form, moving free electron motion form. And there are many kinds of types, free electron motion forms in our universes in different wavelengths. Most common one, lambda normal initial wavelength, 91.155 nanometer wavelength size electron motion form. And when, say, this electron motion form at a certain electron motion form's velocity, okay, change its shape and each point's wavelength, energy, wave velocity, speed of light, different. Without what? Frequency changing. Frequency doesn't change, okay? And this shape changing, here, shortest shortened wavelength, largest wavelength in shortest shortened with 0 degree direction, opposite direction. This type motion creates continuous spectrum, all continuous spectrums, and spikes from where? Proton bound electron motion form. At its first cycle, and they produce and pour out only single wave pulse, and when they coincide, single wave pulse and continuous spectrum, this is the graph, okay? This is spike, characteristic lines, emission lines, this is continuous spectrum. Continuous spectrum velocities are changing, but for proton-bound electron motion forms, single wave pulse enlarge in all directions at the speed of light. But this is the formula that I put for C minus delta, C minus electron motion forms velocity cosine alpha. Okay, different. And when they coincide, they make this type chart. Yes. What does light have to do with all this? For instance, in galactic scale light graphs used in physics to understand how fast a galaxy is moving away, but accepted physics theorists do not discern that light they use to measure this speed are two radically different types of light. Moreover, they do not realize that each continuous spectrum chart represents a different and specific unchanged frequency and variable initial wavelength of free electron motion forms light. Therefore, they wrongly calculate and conclude that some galaxies move away from each other faster than light. 1. Characteristic emission lines and continuous spectrum connection has special conditions. This is free electron motion forms. This is free electron motion form in motion at, say, 299,000 km per second. And here coincide what? At this point, just this point, say it at this point, this is single wave pulse at C velocity enlarge. When it coincides this, result is redshifting of what? Spike of single wave pulse. Okay. Like this. Yes. I will go on explain my next videos, okay? This subject is so important for me and for you. 1. Characteristic emission lines and continuous spectrum connection has special conditions. They are radically different types of light. One of them, continuous spectrum, comes from moving free electron motion form. Another comes from proton-bound electron motion form as a single wave pulse. These two must intersect in any point, say redshift position here, okay, or here, redshift area, blue shift area here, 90 degree area here. This graph 90 degree, 0 degree. If certainly motion direction is 0 degree, 90 degree, this is the position. Yes, these two must intersect for single wave pulse to appear in continuous spectrum as a spike at a representative wavelength. Okay. 2. Continuous spectrum represents whether interfered or not with its neighbor, same wavelength, same frequency, free electron motion forms. Continuous spectrum represents free electron motion forms, variable wave velocities, variable wavelengths, variable masses, variable angular momentums, variable energies, etc., depending on free electron motion forms velocity. Okay, here 90 degree, lambda normal. This point is lambda normal, this point is 0 degree, lambda normal minus delta lambda. This is important, don't forget. Lambda normal minus delta lambda, because 0 degree is 1, cosine 0 degree is 1, lambda alpha cosine 1 is lambda alpha. Okay. And lambda normal in 90 degree. In the 0 degree, lambda normal minus delta lambda. Okay. Wait a moment, please. And another, yes, snapshot. You can notice then here, okay. Story is long. Yes. Z formula and all derivative. Wait a moment. Continuous spectrum represents whether free electron motion forms variable velocity, wave velocity, wavelength, masses, angular momentums, energies, etc. Depending on free electron motion forms velocity, motion direction, and orientation. Anisotropy. Here, what? Anisotropy. This is important concept. Rho P. For what? For moving free electron motion form. For single wave pulse, there is no anisotropy. Isotropy. Okay. This difference make wavelength of emission line redshift if sources move away from us. Yes, continuous spectrum represents anisotropy of moving free electron motion form. Okay. For instance, in the 180 degrees opposite direction of its motion, free electron motion form's point energy decreases to its minimum. Point wavelength is twice of its initial wavelength. Okay. At its maximum, and its point velocity of the wave is c plus electron motion form. This wave velocity, the c plus electron motion form cosine alpha. Okay, this point. At its maximum, but characteristic line pulse, single wave pulse, doesn't change its speed, c. It enlarges at c velocity, c speed, okay? But here, at this point, it enlarges c at c velocity. Here, enlarges at c plus VE velocity. C plus electron motion forms velocity. But new one coincide with this. New successive wave of free electron motion form coincide with this single wave pulse, then its energy, emission line's energy drops and it shifts through red. Okay. If moving away position of observed something. Yes. Point wavelength is twice, yes. But characteristic line pulse, single wave pulse doesn't change its speed in all direction, it expands at c. And when a single wave pulse coincides with one of enlarged waves of a moving free electron motion form in 180 degrees, it's the two different type waves intersect here. and original energy value of single wave pulse at the rate of moving electron motion forms a large wavelength value. Therefore, we see the single wave pulse as shifted towards red as a spike or line. Difference between free electron motion forms velocity and single wave pulses constant velocity, all velocity c also affects these results. 3. Z formula and all derivative formulas. Lambda observed minus lambda emitted divided by lambda emitted, or before then, you know. Okay, this is wrong. Z formula and all derivative formulas, including the relativistic one of Z formula, are wrong because the actual rate of change of wavelengths cannot be determined with these formulas, because lambda observed here. Yes, this is lambda observed. This is lambda emitted. Accepted physics don't see big picture. Big picture is this. As I told you before, you cannot calculate difference and rating these two partial, one part of chart. You cannot understand, you cannot calculate the velocity of source that you observe. For doing this, you must, this is 0 degree lambda normal initial lambda minus delta lambda. You must know this, and you must know lambda